Yeah, you asked me one question, right? I don't have a context for
Yeah.
my formula type, and I have context in some other formula type. What do? You have to define that formula. You have to define your formula there, then you have to call this formula here. That's called calling a formula from a formula. I'll show you how to do that. Okay. Calling a formula from a formula, what give you some extra facility for you in the formula. Okay. And the called formula name and any formula input output name specific text values. I'll explain this also now. Okay. Take this example. Okay. This is calling a formula. What they are saying it here. The input and outputs name as specific text values. So here I'm setting my input. Okay. And this is my input value. You remember that we have input this form. We are calling one formula called sub fast formula session demo. This formula is having one input variable that's called effective date. How we are calling this effective date? Within quotes we are putting it. That's what they're saying, that is a text value. That's a formula. I can show it here. Then you can understand. Okay. See, sub formula, it has only one input. That's why we are setting only one input here. Okay. I'll explain the syntax. Give me some time. We'll go through this theoretical part. And names are case independent.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Now there you use set input.
Yeah.
Typically,
Okay.
is it not supposed to be inputs are?
You can be any, so what's saying that then output names or specific text values. Say example here.
So in
Even
writing
though,
an input file in a formula, typically
yeah,
you use input are.
yeah,
Yeah, that, like
see,
use it. So what's the significance of using set input?
I'll explain that. Give me a minute, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. When the formula runs, what will happen? It will go and check the calling formula is under the executable set or not. For example, I am calling on a sub formula. Unfortunately, it was in error mode, error state. So it will check. Okay. And also it will check whether the specified input output data is correct. And formula must be valid as of effective date of the calling formula function. I have one, my main formula is calling my first formula. The effective date of the first formula, my main formula, say example, I'm calling them fifth. But I have my sub formula, but the effective date while defining the first formula is 0 to 10th September. So it will check and it will say that formula is not available. The payroll code imposes extra restriction based on the formula type combination. Again, it's formula type only, right? So we'll see what is the formula type tomorrow session. Okay. And we don't, yeah. This how you have to use. Syntax used when calling a formula. Okay. This is how we're expecting, right? So how to execute a formula? Syntax is execute within bracket, you have to give your formula name. Okay. This formula is having, say example, one input, then you have to give, one second, some problem with my cursor. Yeah. Input. So my, if you check it here, in my sub formula, I have effective date, EFF underscore date as a one input. How I'm calling it here? I'm setting it here. I'm putting EF underscore. I'm just setting some value here. What is my L underscore EF date? L underscore EF date is nothing but my effective date. This is how we have to set it here. Okay, then get output. So here output is nothing but your output variable of your sub formula. Okay, if we go here in my sub formula, what is my sub output? L underscore text. How I'm calling another formula here? See, I'm just getting output as L underscore text.
Okay. Right.
Then it's checking if this basically if you want to check whether it's executable or not, the call formula executable or not, from this formula you can check it here using this syntax. Okay. You can call formula in two ways: separate cell and single cell. Like here, if you check it here, first you have to set the input, then you have to call this execute, then you have to call this get output. Okay, I don't want to use set input, execute, get output. I have to do it in everything in a single sentence. You have to use call underscore formula. That is the difference. We'll see the syntax now. See what I'm doing here: set input unit hourly. Unit is nothing but my input value. Hourly is nothing but I'm assigning some value to my unit input value, and I'm just doing execute date formula. And what I'm getting output rate. Rate is nothing but my output variable, and I'm getting some output and I'm assigning to the local variable. This nothing but separate cell. You have to have three syntax: set input, execute, and get input. What about this one? Calling in a single cell. You have to use call formula. Better I can go there so that you can clearly understand. Here the one you have to please keep this in mind. Here what we are doing, that input values on output values are on left side, right? Here the call formula, this input value and output values are in which side? On your right side, and the values are in left side. Okay. On input value, how we differentiate that this is the input values? Because with this bracket, if you put this bracket, this is nothing but your input values, and you just passing this L affiliate into this input values. This your output value. If you put this bracket, this arrow mark, then you just getting back to citizen your local variable. This is nothing but your local variable. Is it clear how to see it here? There are two ways. Different using three different method and only one method. Let me explain my sub formula. Okay, I'm doing some simple formula. See, this per citizenship, I have to cover this change context also, but I'll just consider like this per citizenship legislation code. Where is my SQL formula? It's having some one bind variable. This bind variable is nothing but effective date. Okay. Legislation code only, right? Say example citizenship. Citizenship code from, say example, people table. People table, and person ID will be person ID. Person ID will automatically get passed because this formula type also having context, default context, and it has one more thing called, say example, date equal to colon effective date. So this database item, to give some value for you, you have to set two context. One is person ID, one is effective date. In my sub formula, what I'm doing I'm just setting only one. If this is my context, okay, This E and the effective date is nothing but my input variable. So I'm just assigning directly there. Why I'm not setting person ID here? Because this payroll access to formula type, by default it will have context person ID. That's what I'm ignoring that. So whatever the context is not available, you have to set it. How to set the context? You have to put change context. We'll cover that later. And within bracket, open close bracket, you have to mention that. This format type is nothing but payroll access to HR. The same array example fast formula, I modified this array end here. Okay, I'm just putting, see this one, see my comments, calling formula using separate call. It ends here. And I'm putting message here. And calling formula using self-contained cell. I mean single method. I'm putting it here. Basically, what I'm trying to achieve here is both way I should get the same result, right? Because I'm casting when I'm calling on the same formula, I'm passing same value. It should give me the same output. Let me check how it's working now. So I have to go here. Let me change here. Submit. Combine. Okay. Refresh. Okay. Let me roll back this and show you the result. Calculate quick pay. Submit it. See, observe here. Separate cell output also GP, and citizen self single method call also output is same. So both is serving the same purpose. Hey, any doubt calling another formula in same from main formula? If you don't have, then I can move on to the.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So could you always just use either of the two methods, or there will be situations where you have to use one method or the other?
No. Actually, in the recent version, they use the call formula method. In older version, they have these three methods. But for backward compatibility, still Oracle is having that three method call. That's it. You can either use anyone. Yeah,
Okay.
any situation will work by both method will work.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now I am moving on to context. So as I told you, context is nothing but it acts as a bind variable for the select query, which is running behind your database item, right? So this context are set by code calling the formula. So formula, if you choose Oracle payroll, some contexts are available. I have already shown you available. Okay. Now what we are going to do now? we have to see how to change the context. Say example, by default, Oracle payroll is giving me person ID equal to the person of whom I'm running the payroll. Okay, now I want to change that person ID to some person, some other person ID. Then you have to use change context. That's as simple as that.
Okay.
Okay. In the application code, you should set the calls. Okay. And one more thing you have to consider here is how to get the context. Yesterday I see it here. Even my fast formula. What is syntax to get the payroll ID? This Oracle fast formula is setting for you. If you want to access the payroll ID, how to access it? You have to use get context method. That's it. Get context, payroll ID, comma, your default value. And what are the other values is there? Context set or not? You have to check here whether context set or not. You have to check using this method. You can check it, and if it's set, you can proceed your calculation. This is also very important. As I told you, okay. Just consider here, okay. This start of this formula is setting my effective date to 9th September 2024. Okay. What I'm doing here, I'm just changing that effective date into my input variable effective date. Say example, my input value date is 10th September 2024. Okay. So where will you get the 10th September 24 available only within this location, within this open directory locations. Moment it will come out, by automatically what will happen? The effective date again will be reset to 9 September. You got it what I'm saying? If you use again get context here, L underscore date equal to get context effective date just bear with me if I do some syntax here. So what this date what will have? It will have 9 September. But if you do the same thing here, okay, what this will have? This will have 10 September. Since we are changing the effective date here, so the changing the context, setting the context is available within this change context area. If you just come out of this closed bracket area of change context, again this context will be set to the default context of the fast formula, calling formula. Is it clear? Okay. Inside the context changing block, this block or area, formula functions called database item call formula is a new context values. So it's obviously, since we change the context, if you have any database items, it will always refer the new context that is being set by change underscore context method. Okay, or function. If you want to nest the context changing context also, you can do it like this. So you have already sent a context here. Again, you want to change the context. How to do it? You have to put change context here. Then again, you have to open close bracket. Here, instead of FD, what are you doing that? You're putting like, FD equal to +1. Then here, if you check it here, it will give you some different value. This is a nested context. I already told you, right? Context value is the SQL bind values when database items are fetched from the database. Context value can also be passed into formula function calls. If you have any formula functions, even the context will be set to the formula functions also.